Yo, guys, Justin Jaynes here with the 10-7, and it has been announced. Charles Oliveira is already stepping back into the octagon after his brutal knockout to Ilia Topuria in the first round. Now, guys, love Charles Oliveira. I'm a huge fan of him. I think this is just a little too soon for him to be getting back in there. Now, there's two narratives I have, and if you guys caught the live show on Friday, I gave a brief description of what I think could be going on, why he would take this matchup, or in the sense, why would Fiziev take this matchup? Because both guys haven't been able to string together very many wins out of the last five. I think Charles Oliveira is 2-3 in his last five, and I believe Fiziev is 2-3 in his last five as well. Although both guys have been fighting top competition, and just to show you guys what kind of top-level competition they're fighting, we're going to go to our former champion here, Charles Oliveira. Going to look at his Tapology really quick. You know, here's his last five fights. Islam Makhachev, arguably one of the greatest lightweights of all time. He beats Dariush first round. Arman Sarukian, ranked number one contender, in my opinion, loses a split decision, beats Michael Chandler, gets performance of the night, very convincing decision, and then gets knocked out by Ilia Topuria. But here's a big thing. June 28th, gets first round knockout, and he's already scheduled to fight Rafael Fiziev October 11th. So, we're looking at July, August, September, less than 4 months for let his brain recover. Now, there's two different narratives that I see here. And again, I talked about this going on the show on Friday. Why would Charles Oliveira want to risk this, especially against a guy like Rafael Fiziev, who's very tough, but he gets really no credit for the win? And the way I look at it is Charles Oliveira and his team must think that he's a significant favorite. And the UFC, Mick Maynard, Sean Shelby, the matchmakers, probably pitched it to Oliveira as, hey, man, here's a guy that's coming off a loss to Justin Gaethje. Here's a guy that you should be way better than. And here's the UFC doing you a favor to give you this favorable matchup. Now, when we look at the cost of things, if Charles Oliveira goes in there and loses this fight, what does that mean for his career? Can he compete at the top level in the UFC anymore? And I think this is one of those fights to where if Charles Oliveira goes in there and even loses a close decision, I think it's going to be about that time to think about hanging him up. And, you look at Fiziev on the other hand. Let's take a look at Fiziev's record. We're going to share. We're going to stop sharing that. We're going to go right to Fiziev. Also a similar record in his last five. He's lost 3 of his last 5. But you look at these losses, Justin Gaethje, who allegedly is going to be fighting for the UFC championship soon. Gamrot, super tough guy, unfortunately loses due to a leg injury. And then he loses to Justin Gaethje in a unanimous decision once again. Since then, in June, he fought Ignacio Bahamama, however you pronounce it. I've never even heard of this guy, but at least he's getting back on the winning track. Now, when the UFC calls Fiziev for this matchup, hey, man, you're coming off a loss. The UFC seems to like this guy. They keep giving him shots at these big fighters. You look at his record in the UFC, 7 wins, 4 losses here. But, going into this, look, you have Alex White, never heard of him. Mark Diaz, very tough guy. Renato Moicano, left hook, knocks him out. King Green, another great fight. Brad Riddell. The UFC likes this guy, and they're giving him an opportunity. I'm sure that they proposed this matchup because he's coming off a win. They like him. And if he can get in there and beat Charles Oliveira, this is going to create new matchups for the lightweight division. Now, on paper, and because I'm a huge Charles Oliveira fan, I feel that Charles has a huge advantage in this fight. I think he has the skill advantage. I think he has the size advantage. I think he has the grappling advantage. I think he has the striking advantage. I think he should be a huge favorite in this fight. My fear is I think Charles Oliveira is definitely past his prime, and he's starting to get a little chinny. All right, that brutal knockout that happened, that's going to be 3 months when this fight happens. 3 months is not enough time to let your brain recover and to get back in it. So I firmly think that reiterating my point. The UFC pitched this to Charles Oliveira as a favorable matchup, saying, oh, well, you beat Justin Gaethje and he's lost to him twice. But they pitched it to Fiziev, saying they're giving him an opportunity to break into the top 10, fight another former champion, Justin Gaethje, former intern champion. And, and then you have Charles Oliveira, arguably one of the greatest lightweights of all time, was on that killer tear there for a while. What an opportunity for Rafael to come in here and try to dethrone the champ. And again, what an opportunity for Charles to get back in there and show he still has it. Guys, from a betting standpoint, this is a fight I am staying away from. I think Charles Oliveira, this is one of those fights that everything on paper says Charles Oliveira said that fight, but the UFC, I think they want Fiziev to win. I think they want Rafael to come in there, starts Charles Oliveira, show that he's back on. They'll put him on a 2-fight win streak, and then to give him a match to try to break into the top 5, because there's so many great matchups we'd love to see. Guys, in the comments, tell me your thoughts. I love Charles Oliveira. I hope he can go in there and get the win, but something tells me my heart wants Charles, but something tells me the UFC narrative wants Rafael to win, guys. Tell me in the comments what you think.